All right, let's dive into a story that has echoed for thousands of years. It's a foundational story about fear, about power, and about the very first sparks of resistance. We're going straight to the source material today, looking at Exodus chapter 1.
You know, every national story has to start somewhere. And for the Israelites in Egypt, it all started with this number, 70. That's it. Just 70 people, one extended family who moved into a foreign country looking for a safe place to build a future. It was just this tiny seed planted in the fertile soil of Egypt.
But here's the thing, that seed didn't just grow. It absolutely exploded. Over the next few generations, this small family clan became a massive population. The text actually says they were exceedingly fruitful, so much so that the land was filled with them. And what starts out as this incredible success story, well, it's about to take a really dark turn.
And here it is, the crucial turning point. A new king comes to power in Egypt, a pharaoh to whom Joseph meant nothing. Think about that. All the history, all the goodwill, the whole reason the Israelites were even welcome there in the first place is just gone, wiped from memory. This new leader doesn't look at them and see a success story, he looks at them and sees a threat.
So, that brings us to the first major part of this story, Pharaoh's fearful plan. We're about to watch how one leader's paranoia gets turned into systematic, state-sanctioned policy.
Pharaoh lays his fear out with, honestly, startling clarity. It's a classic national security argument, right? He looks at this huge, distinct group of people living within his own borders, and he doesn't see neighbors. No, he sees a potential internal enemy that could join up with his enemies if a war ever broke out.
So he comes up with a plan, and it's very calculated, very strategic. Step 1. Deal shrewdly with them, which basically means use cunning to get the upper hand. Step 2. The method. Crush them with forced labor. And step 3. The result. Use that labor to build massive infrastructure projects for Egypt, the store cities of Pithom and Ramesses.
And this is where we get the great irony of the whole chapter. The plan completely, totally backfires. The whole goal was to break their spirits and control their population through brutal, hard labor. But the actual result? The exact opposite. The more they were oppressed, the more they multiplied and spread. So what do you do when your plan to stamp out a threat only seems to make it stronger? You'd think maybe they'd change the plan, but that's not what happens here. The failure just makes the fear worse. The Egyptians' worry turns into a deep dread, and that doesn't lead to a change of heart. No, it leads to an escalation of cruelty. So with his first plan a total failure, Pharaoh escalates. He shifts from public oppression to a secret, horrifying order. And right here in this moment, we meet the very first heroes of this entire story. Their names were Shiphrah and Puah. The whole story, which has been about these massive populations, suddenly zooms in on just two individuals, two Hebrew midwives who are about to get an impossible order and be forced to make a choice that will literally change the course of history. And the order is just chillingly direct. Pharaoh orders them to commit infanticide. He wants them to use their jobs as givers of life to become agents of death, to secretly kill every single newborn Hebrew boy the moment he's born. This simple line, this is the moral center of the entire story. Think about it. They have a direct order from the most powerful man on the planet, the king of Egypt. But the text says they had a higher allegiance. They feared God, and that reverence, that fear, was greater than their fear of Pharaoh. Well, you know their disobedience is going to get noticed, and sure enough, Pharaoh calls them in. You can just imagine the tension in that room as he confronts them. This isn't just a question, it's an accusation. It's basically treason.
And their response is just an incredible act of both courage and cleverness. They don't openly defy him. That would be a death sentence. Instead, they give him this brilliant lie that's actually rooted in stereotypes. They say, oh, the Hebrew women, they're not like the Egyptian women. They're so vigorous that they give birth before we can even get there. It's an amazing piece of civil disobedience. So what's the result of this incredible act of defiance? Well, two things happened. First, the midwives themselves were rewarded. The text says God gave them their own families. And second, the Israelite people, the very group Pharaoh was trying to destroy, they just became even more numerous. His second plan failed just as spectacularly as the first.
And this leads us to the final, desperate move of a completely frustrated tyrant. When oppression doesn't work and secret plots get foiled, what do you have left?
You can see this terrifyingly logical progression. First, you try systemic oppression with forced labor. When that fails, you move to a secret order for targeted killing. And when that also fails, you escalate to the final, most horrifying stage.
This is Pharaoh's final command. He gives up on secrecy and makes his genocidal plan public policy. This isn't an order for 2 midwives anymore. This is a command to all his people. He implicates the entire nation in his crime, essentially turning every Egyptian citizen into a potential executioner.
And that's where the chapter leaves us, right on the edge of a state-sponsored atrocity, but also with this powerful, shining example of Shiphrah and Puah. It forces us to ask a question that's just as relevant today as it was then. When a system, a leader, a government commands you to do something monstrous, what does it take to say no?